comparing the strengths of the USA and China. Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel. Today, we are going to explore and compare the strengths of the two largest superpowers in the world today, the United States and China. Who would come out on top if these two nations clashed? Let's find out together. 1. Defense spending. First, let's talk about defense spending, a crucial factor in evaluating a nation's military strength. In 2021, the United States allocated a whopping $780 billion to its defense budget. Just imagine, this amount is equivalent to Vietnam's total income over 13 years. Yes, 13 years, folks. And what about China? Despite its best efforts, China's defense spending is only about 30% of the US's, which is around $250 billion. A significant amount, no doubt, but still far behind the $780 billion of the US. With such a massive budget, the US military system is much larger than China's, from the number of weapons and fighter jets to the most advanced military technologies. 2. Economy. Next, let's look at the economic aspect, an area where China has risen strongly in recent years. If the US and China were to push each other into a war, their trade activities would be severely impacted. Currently, China exports to the US far more than the US exports to China. This means that if trade were halted, China would lose a substantial trade surplus, over $300 billion a year. This would be a massive economic loss for China, while the US would also be affected, but to a lesser extent. Moreover, China would face the loss of other major trading partners if a war broke out. For instance, the EU, China's second largest trading partner, is also an ally of the US. If the EU and the US jointly impose sanctions on China, the Chinese economy would face significant difficulties. Without money, how can they maintain the military and sustain a war, right? 3. Allies. Speaking of allies, we cannot ignore the significant difference between the US and China. The US has an incredibly strong and widespread network of allies globally. Most of the major nations from World War I and II are US allies, such as Germany, Japan, France, and the UK. Most of these countries are part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, with a commitment that if one country is attacked, all will jump in to help. This means that attacking the US is not just attacking one nation, but an entire powerful alliance. You can imagine, if someone dares to attack the US, a whole bunch of top-tier friends will jump in to help. On the other hand, China does not have as many strong allies as the US, and this would be a significant disadvantage if a conflict arises. 4. Military logistics. Moving on to another aspect, military logistics. This is a crucial factor in any war. The US has over 800 military bases scattered around the globe, especially in sensitive areas near China. These bases allow the US to easily deploy forces and maintain logistics from fuel, weapons, to food supplies. Imagine, when a battle is needed anywhere, the US already has fighting forces available or can move them within a very short time. In contrast, China is limited in operating outside the range where they can refuel. US nuclear-powered aircraft carriers can dominate the seas for years before needing refueling, while China does not have this capability. This is a huge advantage for the US that China cannot easily overcome in the short term. 5. Combat experience. Combat experience is an indispensable factor when comparing military strength. The US military has participated in numerous wars, from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, to recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Whether winning or losing, each war has brought valuable lessons and real combat experience for the US. In contrast, the Chinese military has participated in fewer conflicts, hence having less combat experience. The US also has international military training programs, attracting many students from around the world, whereas China does not. This gives the US not only real combat experience, but also an advanced military training system recognized by many countries. 6. Weapon technology. Finally, let's talk about weapon technology, a decisive factor in modern warfare. The US is far more advanced in terms of weapon technology. Although China has been able to produce many of its weapons, most are learned from Russia and reverse-engineered from Russian designs. Meanwhile, the US and Russia lead the world in defense technology. Most of China's weapon models are from the Soviet era, while the US has far more modern weapons and is researching new technologies. The advanced weapons of the US far surpass China's, from fighter jets, missiles, to aircraft carriers. So, if we look at the overall picture, the US still has many advantages over China in a hypothetical military conflict. However, we all understand that a war would cause enormous damage to both sides and to the entire world. Instead of war, we hope these two superpowers will continue to resolve all disputes through peace and cooperation. Thank you for watching the video. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to support us. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.